Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back to another recording of MTG Arena. Today is Friday, November 29th. It is Black Friday, so I'm starting slightly earlier for two reasons. One, I'm incredibly bored. I've had my computer backing up and stopping me from doing any other recordings for almost a week straight now, and I just have nothing better to do with my time, obviously. So, I want to do something. Let's play some Magic. Two, I'm afraid that as the Black Friday shopping continues, both the Black Friday shopping that I'm doing, which I'm keeping an eye on the deals, but as other people are doing it, I'm afraid that the bandwidth will just go worse and worse for the internet in general for the rest of today and probably the entire weekend. I desperately need to find a good chunk of time over the weekend where I can just play an offline game, record some footage, build up a inventory, a stock of video footage, and then upload that footage after Cyber Monday. So let's hop into the game. So far I haven't really seen anything amazingly good as far as a Black Friday sale, and I don't really expect there to be too much. So I could do Historic Pauper. It's open now. It would be 500 gold, and it would give me 3 classic cards that you can't play in Standard, where I am in a position where it makes 0 sense for me to try and enter Historic, as I only really have Throne of Eldraine cards. Here we are. Throne of Eldraine's the latest expansion. Core Set 2020 makes sense for me to buy, but if I could really hold out and wait until Core Set 2021, that would be even better. Pretty soon, in the next few months, this set, Ravnica and Ravnica Allegiance, are going to be added to the collection of Core 19, Dominaria, Galaxian, and Rivals of Galaxian, which are all not playable in Standard. So 6 out of 9 card expansions that are being shown right here will be moved into that Historic mode. And by the point that happens, there will almost certainly be 2 more expansions. Because I think they want to keep at least 4 expansions in Standard, and I don't think they want to cycle out 1 expansion. I think they want to cycle out at least 2 of them. A lot of that might just be me making up stuff, but I think that's what I heard. So there's no reason to play that. Ravnica Allegiance, also not really a reason to play that. The only thing that would make sense would be playing Ranked Draft. But there's kind of no reason to do that either, because in 30 hours the month ends, and thus Season 2 of Throne of Eldraine, which I guess the way that's going to break down is that you get 3, maybe 4 seasons, which would be 3 or 4 months. And then that is that. I'm also at rank 72 on the Mastery, and that might be a slight concern too. We're making decent amounts of progress, but I would ideally want to get up to at least rank 90. But really I want to get up to rank 100, and if I don't put in some extra time, but by the time they announce that Eldraine Mastery is no longer going to be a thing, there may not be enough time to work my way up here. But if I was to have to purchase this with gems, what would that cost? 28 level boost would be 7,000 gems to get back 600 gems, so that really wouldn't be worth it. And they just don't have back buttons, which is sleazy, to say the least. So, yeah. There's no really reason to play standard ranked. There's really no reason to play anything. So what was our choices? Black or red. So I could either play this Dome Destruction. Let's play one game there. Like, I was mostly playing red for last stream, but I think I've made some tweaks to my red deck and improved it, I think, quite a bit. So I'm a lot happier with it than I think I was before. And I will warn that if somebody types something in the chat, because of network connection issues, there might be there might be some comments that I just missed. So apologies if that happens. I say it almost every stream now, we don't have a ton of news, but quite frankly that doesn't mean anything, because even though when I don't have a ton of news, we run into me moving so slow through the news because I'm focusing more on trying to build decks or play this game that it doesn't matter. In a weird way, I would have to start thinking of a way to curate the news, and this is going to be a major problem when we get around to outside of February next year. Like, once we start hitting March and April, once games and news really starts to build up for next year. Right now we're in a slow period as far as video game news is concerned. So yeah, we might as well try and connect all of this. Yep. And see what will load, which right now the answer to that is nothing. I can say the Steam sale image has changed, so I'll show that in a second, I guess, if I can get it to load. First game we have here is Robin Hood Country of Heroes, and this is not working. So let's, yep, this is exactly what I thought was going to happen. And I suppose I could spend the rest of the day just struggling to play Magic Arena and get 15 victories. It kind of sucks that you can't get anything more after the 15 victories, because in Hearthstone, theoretically, if you got 3 wins, you got 10 gold, whereas here, you after 15 victories, you're just done for the day. At a certain point, I guess you just have to jump over and play Magic Online or something else. Which, by the way, I saw an article, we'll probably cover it, where Magic Duels support has been shut down, which I believe Magic Duels was the game that was a predecessor to Magic Arena, and it's not very good. That you can list probably half a dozen Planeswalker games, Magic Planeswalkers games, which I don't think were called Magic Duels, and Magic Duels, and Magic Online, and Magic Arena. But I mean, what can they do but other than shut down support for some of those games, which is what they're doing. It will peeve people off, certainly, but you've got to clear the field that you've made messy at this point and set the path forward that Magic Arena is the way they're going forward, and that there's nothing more that they're going to create. Like, the largest concern you can have here is that that they would get rid of get rid of Magic Arena and make yet another new launcher, which there's really no reason why that should happen. So this deck is more of a combo aggro deck than just an aggro deck. I don't have enough cards to just be able to do 20 plus health damage in a quick way, but through getting lots of these on the field, I can accomplish goals. Of course, he can kind of easily defeat me if he kills this guy and then kills the next guy. And playing a black-white deck, there's a decent chance that's exactly what he's going to do. So we'll put this on the field, and then this is a buff to all my creatures. So you kind of have to intentionally have a couple of characters come out and hope that they just don't have any more things they can do. Now the question is, do I want to save this or use this now? And it's probably better to save this. So yeah, like a third just field destruction card. So I have 2 more of those, and those were my main strategy. Without those, I have to then work a lot more. I have to struggle. See, had I played this while this was on the field, that would have buffed that guy. But now with just this on the field and this, all I've got is a bunch of spells. I desperately need to bring this guy back, and I don't really have a way to do that, so I've probably already lost right now. Although it's not like he's doing anything either. So, and the great thing about these artifact things are that they are not lands, so you can potentially add 2 lands to your hand. Not that having a ton of land in this deck really helps. Anyways, I was talking about this game, Robin Hood Country of Heroes. This is one of those resource management strategy games that I've seen lots of cell phone game versions of. $5.59 English only and Russian. So, yeah, nothing there of any interest. It doesn't seem like we have any new announcement of any more games getting kicked off Steam, so I imagine the 1,000 or so games that were kicked off are all that Valve is willing to do for a while. I wouldn't be surprised if there is another collection of games that get kicked off before the winter sale, the Christmas sale, but that's probably gonna be it. I wouldn't be upset if they did that. What did that card do? Double his life, cut mine in half. Well, that sucks. See, I can play all these spells, but it really wouldn't have helped too much had I done that. There's, let's see, 6, 9, 10, 11. So I can do 11 damage to him. 2 damage to the player, and you gain 2 life. So here's what the autumn sale image looks like now. There was this tentacle that was sticking out on day 1, or by the time I looked at it, the image again, and now this tentacle is crawling almost completely into the store. And there, Gabe Newell's here, and there's apparently some news story in the background. I heard some speculation that the reason why there wasn't any like special art for the Steam Awards is because all the artists are working on Half-Life Alex, which might be the case, but then you do have kind of an animation here that I don't know if this is live 2D. I don't think it is, if I was to guess, but it's very similar in what it's doing compared to live 2D. I don't think we're going to get any huge reveal, though, by the last day of the autumn sale. I don't think that there's anything to really take from it. It's just that some artist somewhere made some animation, and good for them. Can't really say anything more about it. As for the autumn sale itself, it's just kind of highlighting different games. Maybe if you logged in every day, you would see a slight variety of different games, but honestly, not a lot. It seems like they're trying to integrate their new categorization system and their new storefront, and this is kind of a test of a new storefront since they did change the library relatively recently. Yeah, it might be that by the December sale, the Steam storefront looks rather differently, adapting more of these, like, what I kind of thought these were going to be stand-in images. I think most people thought these were going to be standard images for categories, and they're trying to adopt like more of a colorful approach. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a eventual shift. The right way to do it would be very slow, and just slowly shift it from a dark blue into a lighter green to eventually having a full-on white background or light mode. Because yeah, I don't know if dark really works even for a video game storefront. It probably works. A dark mode probably works a little bit better for a video game storefront than anything else, but yeah, it's still pretty old-fashioned. Yeah. At a certain point, I'm very close to losing, so. Most of these cards, by the way, can target anything, like any target, not just creatures. I traded out most of this red deck. But this is kind of the experience I was having, where it is a coin flip between do I have the right characters on the field or not? And if I don't have the right characters on the field, then what am I doing? Although, playing against someone else that basically has yet to put anybody on the field too, clearly he doesn't have much as far as creature spells. So this really is just, what are these called? They're instant spells. They're non-creature spells. Alright, here we go. Now this is a great guy. If you were to do 1 damage, deals that damage plus 2. So what we want to do is do this. Nope, can't do that one. I have to target a creature on that one. Alright. That. And then submit. And then submit. And so that should do 4. And then I want to do that to do 2 more. And then I want to do that to do 2 more. Then I want to do this. Darn it. Where's my spectate? So that kind of helped. It got him from 42 to 32. But he's just so far ahead. Like, is it realistic that we'll get any further? Probably not. I could activate this ability and buff up this character, but the murder spell wouldn't have done anything with that anyways. How did he just get 58? Doubling his life and cutting mine in half. Oh yeah. Well, you can see here I managed to play effectively 11 lands. So I might have a little too many lands. A small tweak there might work. I have all 4 of these castle Imbars. Notice I'm not playing anything that would just give me extra health. That doesn't really need. It won't be that helpful. Alright, so this will do 2 damage. This is a great card. And then this will give me this. And then I can end my turn. And we'll see what happens next turn. If this stays alive somehow. This gives me a -1, -1. And this is going to give me a -2, -2. So it's going to kill him. So I couldn't have done anything with that. Probably going to lose here, so let's see. If we did this, that's 1 buff of +1. That's 1 buff of +1. That's 3 buffs of +1. So I still don't have enough mana to do all 4 buffs to give a +4 to all my creatures, which would be really useful. But not something that would really happen. Now he's just irritating me by killing my minions that are the few minions I had in my field. I guess he caused me to discard one of these. That was part of the problem too. And then what we can do is we can end our turn, and then as soon as he plays something here, I can save myself, although I don't know why I'm saving myself, I'm really just wasting time. I can do this and tap this guy, and then he can't attack. Meanwhile, we have a TechRaptor article here. Stardew Valley 1.4 PC patch notes have arrived. So, mini fridges, workbenches, and more. Yeah, Stardew Valley is still getting updates. Although, I'm not sure if it's super relevant or important. And at this point, perhaps the developer of Stardew Valley would be better suited if he was working on Stardew Valley 2 instead of just patching something. I mean, you can even really hear that in the name. It's a 1.4 update. You're halfway towards a new game. Let's see, that should be it for that. So here's TechRaptor's article. Official support for Magic Duel ends. So multiplayer will still be playable. Wizards of the Coast and Stainless Games. I guess this is part of the thing, is Wizards of the Coast previously had been partnering with somebody, whereas I think Magic Arena is directly being developed in-house of Hasbro and the Magic Wizards of the Coast company. So all in-game purchases have been removed. Anyone who possessed the game after the end of support will still be able to access multiplayer matches. All single-player content will be given the ability to use the game's entire library of cards. So it's not like they're throwing them out completely in the cold. In addition, online multiplayer matching will continue for the foreseeable future. That being said, it only came out in 2015, so Wizards Duels is a successor of sorts to the previous game, Duel of the Planeswalker, which received yearly updates between 2009 and 2014. So you have 5 years of that, and then 4 years of one game, so they at least got somewhat in the right direction. Let's see. So, and now we're on to Arena, and the biggest fear you could possibly have here is that 1 year, because of the beta in Arena, this game might be only 4 or 5 years in life before it gets abandoned for something else also. Although I don't know why that would be. Let's see. Wanted to see if there was an about page here. Not really. Yeah, I wonder if there is a company that actually helped them create this. Let's try another game. We'll give it a second try. We made progress. So this will probably go over a lot of people's heads, but it included packs from Battle of Zendikar, Oath of the Gatewatch, Shadows of Innistrad. I heard the Gatewatch is probably what the next expansion is going to be, or at least it's what's being speculated, as Throne of Eldraine was not really connected to any of the deeper lore of the characters, where Gatewatch is totally about the deeper lore of the other characters. Eldritch Moons, Kaladesh, Aether Revolt, and Amalok Het. So, yeah, with the support of Duels ending, which is because they seemingly switched their focus entirely to the in-house development of the Magic Arena. Arena was released in September of 2018, and I basically started playing in September of 2019. Let's see. Arena also lets players take part in large official tournaments, which apparently Duels did not. So, it almost makes an argument to buy Duels right now. Like, if somebody wanted to gift me Magic Duels, or any of the old Magic games on Steam, I would be fine to do a spotlight on them. But particularly if you're getting all the cards of the old sets, that's great. But it really loses its value when you know there's not really going to be an audience there. Because you could effectively, if you were going to play that way, just print out or make your own hand-drawn versions of older cards if you just wanted to play with older cards. And honestly, that's probably where Wizards of the Coast should go, is that they should just at a certain point go, here's the printout sheet, here's a PDF of what the cards look like. Go print them out on your own printer on some flimsy paper and play your own games, since all these cards are going to be banned anyways, and since we know there's no way you're going to be able to pass them off as legitimate cards. Although I guess maybe somebody out there could, and that's why they don't do something like that. But I imagine that there are amongst circles already some pretty high resolution scans of Magic cards. And you know, if I was going to get really crazy for as expensive as Magic cards are compared to any other card product, why don't they have NFC in them? Like, honestly, why not put on some, at the very least, make them all foil so that they're very difficult to print and counterfeit. But also, why not put some digital stuff into them and NFC into them? Yeah. At least for the, you could even phase it in for the ultra rare cards. Everything has an NFC chip in it. That way, when there's a tournament, you can just scan the cards and verify that they are real. And that would probably allow an amazing level of integration also to this game and to Arena. Like if they pulled out a official Magic Arena playmat for, let's say, $100 that starts with a collection of two pre-built decks that both have NFC cards in them, and I guess if you're gonna do a playmat though, you have to have all of them have chips in them. I mean, that would be amazing. Although I don't know if you can really make a reader that is in just so many multiple places that that would work. Where like the Yu-Gi-Oh equivalent of you're putting the cards in very specific spots in the armband Yu-Gi-Oh playmat that is most prevalently recognizable. That really only would need one, like 10 readers, maybe 5, because there was only 5 spots or so that you could place the cards. Whereas you've certainly seen, if you've seen enough of the Magic Arena, the cards could be everywhere. But you could kind of cheap out and just have a reader in general. You could have a reader in general just next to the deck, and when you pull a card, it reads it then, and well, that wouldn't really work. Well, it wouldn't be when you pull a card, it would be when you play a card. But yeah, and that's really something you could only do with Magic because the cards are so expensive in the first place, and it would be a great way for you to add an extra 50 cents on the cost of already way too expensive cards. Speaking of the expensive cards, I've been just keeping, you watch one Magic video on YouTube and then you're in that list, so I've been watching a lot of them. It seems like in some different ways Wizards of the Coast is starting to get to the point where they're just selling individual cards, which is something they haven't ever done before, as far as I can tell. Instead of doing the blind box, loot box packs, which has made them so much money. And it's kind of surprising how long it has taken video games to really just copy what Wizards of the Coast has been doing for decades. Yeah, there's something to be said about them potentially seeking a solution to the $800 card problem and controlling the market a little bit more and making the cost of cards a little bit cheaper. I'm definitely in a weird position, and there are clearly two opposing positions here. Like, if you are a hardcore Magic collector and you've got cards that are worth $800, you absolutely don't want Wizards of the Coast affecting the value of your cards. You've made a business around a kid's card game, for better or worse, or for how intelligent that may have been or not. But the opposite argument of that is if you want the actual card game of Magic to succeed and continue to grow and get more people playing it as much as you can with a game named Magic, I think the name itself is still kind of the problem for a few very conservative parents out there. You've got to get the prices down. You've got to get the prices down. You've got to be able to allow a kid that has a $10 a week budget to actually have a chance at playing this at playing Magic and getting new packs regularly and getting good cards, and the trading part really has to be severely cut out from under its own knees for the game part. It has to be a game first and foremost. It doesn't even really have to be a card part of TCG. There was our first victory. Like, the game needs to trump everything else, because without a good game you don't have a big enough audience, and if you don't have a big enough audience, there is no trading. And I would argue that there actually is considerably less trading than there could be if the cards were relatively worthless, and so trading was just a matter of whims of uninformed friends going, hey, I like the art on that card, will you trade that with me? Instead of what Magic has become is, hey, let me go to this website and check the trade value on this. Let me go to the Magic the Gathering equivalent of the Kelly Blue Book website and get the value of this card, and make trades that way. It's so ridiculous. Moving on, we have a game on Steam called SD Gundam. That would be the Super Deformed Gundam G Generation Cross Rays. You can see it's already mixed. Bandai Namco, very up and down, particularly on their anime games. Like, Gundam in itself should be amazingly successful and amazingly good. 40 years of Gundam have happened there. That was the logo. Like, it should be a huge thing, and yet it just never really is. It has full audio Japanese, it's English, Korean, and Chinese. Like, some of these achievements look like characters from some of the animes. Part of the problem with Gundam, though, certainly is I'm not signed in, darn it, so I'm just gonna have to leave these pages open if I'm gonna put them on the follow list. I do want to put this on the follow list, but then almost certainly when there's a cleanup, I'll have to remove it again. One of the major problems with Gundam, though, is that the story is just way too complicated, and so it's impossible to jump in and watch any of the stories and kind of know any of it, or even figure out what the recommended viewing order is. I think your best bet, last time I heard someone explain it, would be to go back and watch Gundam Wing, which is pretty old now, and just watch Gundam Wing, because it's kind of its own standalone story that will give you the general feel of the Gundam series. Or you could take the Cliff Notes version and say Gundams are robots but not super robots, because they're not giant and they're not combinations of other robots. They're mechs, actually not robots, because there's people inside of them controlling them, I think, in almost every iteration. The people of Earth had like a huge world war, like giant World War III or something, and then they decided to quite stupidly bury nuclear bombs pretty much everywhere on the planet, so that nuclear war couldn't happen on Earth anymore at all. Now, why does that stop people from using nuclear bombs in space where most of the Gundam series takes place, or a lot of it takes place. I don't know. I guess just by that point people had just stopped making nuclear weapons, or they had used all of their uranium to seed the entire planet with nuclear weapons. So there was a thought that that would bring about an eternal peace by burying nuclear bombs and doing self-assured mutual destruction of the entire planet. Instead, people built the Gundams and started fighting with swords and laser pistols instead. Anything that isn't just a bomb or explosive, although there's plenty of instances in the Gundam series where there are explosions. The idea of burying nuclear weapons throughout the planet would almost certainly cause tons of leaks and radiation and be a horribly dumb idea. But I kind of understand the premise there. It's kind of like, oh, the world is sick and tired of nuclear war, so we'll do something drastic. Honestly, I think the series needs a prequel at some point to explain how it was some incredibly insane, powerful organization that planted all the nukes, and it was really just a small number of people and not just what seemed like the United Nations did it. That's the premise of all the Gundam games, and then the actual stories of all the Gundam stories are war dramas that often focus on a small selection of people in several skirmishes and in fights. Alright, now Magic is saying something went wrong. Yep, we may be in real trouble here if Magic won't even load. If it got even worse. Yeah. Meanwhile, while that's loading, we have a Gamatsu article here. Death End Request 2 details Betty, Paris, Sarah Putnam, and Sarah Floyd, which are seemingly new characters for Death End Request, which I would assume is a dungeon crawler. It's from Compile Heart. It's tagged as an RPG. Not a lot of details. They're just showing off another girl and another collection of girls, which I've been curating, I guess, maybe a little bit of that, but also we've had a bit of a slowdown of games, particularly Japanese games, just trying to suck up all the oxygen in the news cycles by releasing update after update after update of insignificant amounts of information. TechRaptor has an article here. Rebellion buys brand portfolio of the Bitmap brothers. So let's see, Rebellion. Rebellion does like the Sniper Elite games, I think. Bitmap Brothers was founded in '87 and it was known for titles such as Chaos Engine, Xenon Speedball, and Z Steel Soldiers. So, yeah, nothing really recognizable. Yeah, that kind of feels like more Rebellions just had money and they needed to acquire something, or maybe they needed to acquire talent. So, yeah. I want to look up Rebellion developments. We'll see if this works. Yeah, we're having a huge amount of problems because Steam doesn't want to load, Magic doesn't want to load. This is what I was afraid of. It's just all going to be a collection of terrible network problems for probably the entirety of today and maybe all the entire weekend. So here's Rebellion's website. Zombie Army Dead 4, Evil Genius 2, World Domination. Alright, so I'm a little hyped on that. Although a lot of improvement needs to happen to both make Evil Genius 1 a game that you would want to play in 2020 and make Evil Genius 2 much better than Evil Genius, that theoretical Evil Genius 1. If they don't really do anything to Evil Genius 1, which they haven't, I don't think, guaranteed that they would, then they have to do both of those things in Evil Genius 2. Strange Brigade, I heard critics like that game, but nobody really played it because it required multiplayer. Sniper Elite 4, I think, is some version of that is liked, and then another version isn't. And then you have ridiculous re-releases of games like Rogue Trooper Redux, which nobody asked for and nobody was surprised for. They acquired Wolfie the Red Hood Diaries, which that was an unfinished, I believe, Kickstarter game that they've done nothing with. Judge Dredd versus Death, which there should be a lot more Judge Dredd games. Here's Evil Genius. It's a 15-year-old game at this point. I do own that, Sniper Elite 1, and then Alien vs. Predator Classic 2000, which they're not going to get the rights to make any more Alien vs. Predator games. So they probably wouldn't have the rights to Judge Dredd anymore. They do have the rights to this, or it's Low Red Riding Hood, so you don't need rights. And zombie games and Battlezone games are fine, but yeah, they really don't have a lot of IP that they could push. Just Zombie Army and Sniper Elite more than anything. Evil Genius. They almost certainly have to make a remake of Wolfie the Red Hood Diaries, or a continuation of it, because they don't have anything else to do. They can only bring out so many Sniper Elite games. I believe it was the Sniper Elite version 2 remastered that people didn't like. See, if you see here, it goes Sniper Elite 1, and then there is no link for a version for 2 at all. They're selling the remastered version, and they took down the the version 2 version, and that, I think, was in part why people were so peeved about it, is that not only are they pushing a inferior product on people, they're making it impossible to buy the original version. Let's see. We have a game here on Steam called Crazy City, which is probably a low effort asset flip military shooter. Yep. I don't see how a game like this would ever really sell. You'd have to give me very different screenshots than this. Very, very different screenshots. 99 cents, if I'm reading that right. English only. Yeah. I think if you are going to have a modern first-person military shooter, you've got to go with spectacle. I need to see a giant explosion, giant areas, like helicopters flying around. Like, showing me what could very easily just be Counter-Strike 2 footage is not going to impress anybody. Like, for Counter-Strike Global Offensive footage. And as far as Magic Arena, all I can do is keep on trying. Yep. So we may really only have one episode here today because there's just nothing I can do. Let's see. Next game we have on Steam is Taisho and Alice Episode 1, which is almost certainly an Otome visual novel. Alice in Wonderland inspired, I imagine. Let's see. $24.99 is incredibly expensive. Japanese full audio, and then subtitles for Chinese, but no interface for Chinese, and subtitles and interface for English. So episode 1 features 2 love interests, Cinderella and Red Riding Hood. So, okay. So I guess that means episode 2 would be an expansion of a visual novel? Or a different chapter? Let's see. And it seems like maybe the guys are playing the roles of Cinderella and Red Riding Hood. So this guy I think is Red Riding Hood. And I think this guy is Cinderella. And so Taisho, maybe the girl. Which puts a slightly different twist on it. I guess I'll put that on the fall list. It's asking certainly a lot as far as price, and I almost certainly would never buy it, but it would be interesting to see if that was successful. And visual novels that cost $25 has not been an unheard of concept. Moving on, TechRaptor has an article here. Bandai Namco is giving away Man of Medan friend passes. So, from now until January 6th next year, Bandai giving a friend pass to anyone who buys Man of Medan or has already bought it, which lets you play through the game's shared story mode with another player. Interesting. Let's see. So if you want to do this on Steam, though, you have a second version of the game in your library. Open that and copy the serial number you see in the Steam pop-up. Send it to your friend and ask them to activate the key on Steam. So it's basically just a Steam key. That should give them, and that only grants them the shared story version of Man of Medan, not the full game. I don't feel like this is the best way to promote your game. It seems like it is a half thought through concept to correct what almost certainly was an obvious flaw that they didn't think through, was that they were emphasizing a shared story mode way more than anyone I think was interested in it. And in a weird way, well, I did hear critics kind of like Man of Medan a little bit, that they were no way in love with it the way they were with the PlayStation only game that predated this, with the Choices Matter, like Butterfly Effect game. I forget what the name of it was. So I think we're gonna have to expand here, and we're just gonna have to sit for 5 minutes each time on this timer, because just not finding any connections. I would be much happier if that game I can't even remember the name of, the Butterfly Effect PlayStation only one, came out to Steam, than I would be getting Man of Medan and playing it. I'd probably be fine with Man of Medan and playing it, but I just don't think it was written as well, and very possibly it wasn't made by the same people at all, so that might affect some of the reception there too, is that maybe it just required a lot better writing. Speaking of better writing, when I was looking at my wish list, I had the Life is Strange 2 on my wish list. I think I'm gonna leave the Life is Strange series on my wish list just in case somebody wants to gift me those games. I'm willing to play those games. I'm just not really willing to purchase them myself at this point. I don't think they're that terrible that as kind of a Telltale companion style game, or Telltale style game, I think they're fine to play once, but probably not worth buying, particularly since I still think I have some Telltale games. And there's like a new Batman bundle of Telltale games that's coming back out. And very consistently now, it seems like the overlay app complains about Magic Arena being run with elevated permissions. Not that I particularly care too much there, but it sucks, certainly. Like, sucks to have it complain and not be able to turn off the whining. Like, I seriously don't believe that Magic Arena is trying something fishy here and trying to install spyware or something. So this is a nice, good start. Kind of just want to focus on the game too. Yeah, with as much network connection problems as I've been having with Magic Arena, I could see if I was just gonna try and be one of those Twitch streamers that only played one game, that would never work for me. I'd just get way too bored too fast. And there's just a lot of days I don't want to play anything. But I could see just sitting as a streamer and taking a really long time to queue like a king each time.
The more, the messier.
Let's see. So this Planeswalker does 2 damage to himself, and so here's where we lose, is because he'll just destroy this with some spell, and I've got nothing to bring him back.
They're so cute.
So at this point, this guy's just gonna stay on the field, and it says my opponent can't gain life because he can't use his ability, and he can't gain any. Are these called loyalty points or armor? I was just calling them armor, but I'm not sure I ever grabbed the official name. Pass. Alright, we've got nothing. So might as well play that. And do that. And I could see playing this. It's not a bad card, frankly. For 3 mana to give you 2 1/1 devils, and on top of that have the wonderful ability of stopping your opponent from gaining life. That's pretty nice, actually. Let's see. Gamatsu has an article here. DC4, the Capo 4 PS4 and Switch demo is now available in Japan. Romance visual novel due out December 19th. Haven't heard of this one, but yeah. Another visual novel. Maybe from a company called Circus. Clearly there's been 3 other Da Capo games, but I've never heard of it. And we've really accomplished nothing, and yet somehow my timer says that it has been an hour. I don't understand how that could be the case, honestly. Alright. Play this. 6 damage. Really don't need to do that. This can only deal damage to flying creatures. This guy can buff up a character. We can sacrifice that and draw some more cards. Let's see how that works. If it is gonna work. Yeah, just drew a couple more lands. Yeah, I've got too many lands, clearly, and not enough creatures. Let's see. Gamma Sutra has an article here. A group of senior Ubisoft developers have joined Google's in-house Stadia studio, which, I mean, it really almost seems like that would be a group of people jumping from the sinking ship that Ubisoft feels like it might be to the definite sinking ship of Google Stadia. On the other hand, I could see people like Jade Ramon, as being mentioned here, having worked for years on Splinter Cells and Watchdog games and Assassin's Creed games, and not, or it's Jade Raymond, not Ramon. Maybe this is their opportunity to do something different. Which is very possibly an opportunity that they weren't going to get at Ubisoft, as Ubisoft seems intent on making the same thing over and over again, or moving completely out of the video game business in total. Play that. This would just destroy an artifact, which, I mean, that's not going to help me. I could do 6 damage to this guy. I don't know how that's going to help me either. Yep. This is Stadia Studio, is a Montreal-based studio, so it might have a lot to be just union houses moving from one union job to another, or not being capable or wanting to move out of Montreal. And while Montreal is growing as far as its well, I don't know the best way to say that, but here's what I have to do this. And that's going to give this guy a upgrade for till the end of the turn for no reason. I could see that there being a slightly more limited selection of jobs as far as game development in Montreal. Yeah, and that's probably the end of me. TechRaptor has an article here. 2K donates $500,000 to Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. 2K announced that it's donating $500,000. You know what's funny is video game journalists never do any research, so Like, all any company has to do is announce that they're going to do something and never follow up on it, and nobody would ever call them on it. It would have to be some kind of internal employee that called them out, and then maybe at that point it would become a news story. But there's a decent chance it still wouldn't be a news story, because it would at that point also be an admission that no real video game journalist, including myself, of which I'm barely a video game journalist, I'm not, with no first party sources, like I really can't do the research and find out if a company really does donate anything. I will say that on the sounds of it, they are just donating money, probably for a tax runoff, instead of asking gamers to buy some product or donate, and all in addition to match their donation, or quite all. It's so ridiculous that so many people do that too, that so many companies come out and say, we will donate up to $1 million if a bunch of poor people who have way less than $1 million all combine their efforts and donate $1 million through us first. That's just really, really silly, the way that works. Well, the good news is I have all the daily quests done, so if I really was just gonna give up playing today, right now, I would only miss out on 9 more games worth of rewards as far as experience. But I kind of want to get every day's rewards. I don't know how I can really commit to that, though. Now, the good news is that my backup worked to at least some level of extent. So now I just kind of need to run another backup and make sure that an incremental backup will adjust. So I want to get rid of 2. That would bring me down to 22. And then I need a red creature that of some sort. I don't think I have too many of them. I was looking for red creatures that would buff, and really wasn't running into that. I could almost do Dwarven Mines. Honestly, if there was a deck that came anywhere close to that working, that might be the one. Be nice if I had something that would pull a creature out of the graveyard. That would be nice too. Well, that's probably not too bad a card. There's still a lot of cards that if I just had more of them, I would do better. But I definitely don't have enough wild cards for it to make sense. This is probably not too bad either. So get rid of 3 lands. Try that. Gamatsu has an article here. King and Dogwa Jet Girls Gameplay Video 1 AI Feroza, an hour-long video. This is that weird game that seems to be also an anime where it's girls in pairs riding on jet skis and then shooting each other with kind of like these laser guns, and when the other girl gets hit by the laser gun, some layer of clothing falls off. So clearly not really safe for work. It's kind of a silly, contrived way to have an anime series that just shows increasing levels of undress, and it's probably not going to be much of a game. It'll be interesting to see, as this is coming out on January 16th, 2020 in Japan, if there's a level of censorship compared to the show, which is pretty much completely uncensored. As much as Japanese media can be completely uncensored, it's just a lot of boobs so far is all I've seen. And see how the game, it'll be interesting to see how the game compares to that, or whether there's anything there actually fun to play. This is from Marvelous Entertainment, I think, is the developer, and they're probably the animator also, so it clearly is an example of just a push from their company to make it a thing, which happens a lot in Japanese companies. They want a mass media influx. I mean, we're lucky that Gearbox isn't a Japanese company, otherwise there would have been a Borderlands cartoon, serial, manga, 5 different games, mobile games. There would have been a lot more radio dramas. Moving on, Gamatsu has an article here, Death End Request 2 opening movies. This probably was announced at the same time that the other element was announced. And apparently Kill La Kill version 1.05 update is now available for PS4 and PC as a free DLC character of Mako Manken Shoku. That game came out and pretty much nobody mentioned it at all. I don't think there's anything wrong with the Kill La Kill IF game. It's a fighting game that is based on an anime. Of course, the Western reviewers are going to completely ignore it, and they totally did. And it was based on an old anime, so it's not going to get a lot of buzz even from the Eastern and Japanese creators. Also, there is a One Punch Man game also in development that's coming out that will almost certainly get the exact same treatment too. And there really isn't a lot of need for fighting games to come out based on anime shows. It's kind of silly, except for like Dragon Ball Z, which that makes sense since that was a fighting anime. And Naruto games, if Naruto was more popular still. So yeah, I could skip through this opening movie, but in the interest of saving time, I will just try and watch that later. Save time and bandwidth. So I can see the beginning of the end as far as the number of tabs I have open, and a lot of them were curated video games that we had left over from Wednesday, so yeah, there's not a lot here. We have a game called Oceans We Make, which looks like a VR game where you go in the ocean. It looks pretty. I don't know if I've seen a better VR game where you swim around. It seems like you're probably collecting garbage. It's a 5-minute experience, and it's $2.99. So it's a little pricey for a 5-minute experience. It says it has English full audio, and you kind of want it to have full audio. That's a scenario too where you probably are not going to hear anyone speak, but I still would probably call the game having full audio if you hear the animals speak, if you hear sounds of the underwater creatures, the echoes of whales and things like that. Although I couldn't really think of what any other animal in the ocean makes a sound other than just general swimming noises and whales making their sounds. So there are some animals that, like dolphins, when they're at the surface of water, make sounds. But yeah, Oceans Remake is a little too expensive though for a 5-minute experience, and yeah, I'm not interested particularly in holding on to a 5-minute experience VR game on my follow list, or using that in any way as a categorization or explanation as to why I should buy a VR headset. There's some weirdness on my network. I think a lot of it is just the wired, like the router and the hubs in general. Like, because when I'm running a backup, it should be sending all of the traffic just to the router, and then from one LAN port on the router to the next LAN port on the router. So you would think that would be tons of bandwidth and super easy, and that there would be no problem, but there really isn't. It is still a problem. So I found a wireless dongle. I'm thinking I might put it on my computer, and then there would be 2 ports connecting to the router, but I doubt that really is going to speed much up. If anything, it probably will just introduce more lag and more confusion. Because Windows in particular has never been, to my knowledge, particularly good about handling multiple network connections, whereas like link pairing between expensive switches and routers is a thing that seems like it actually works. It's always nice to see anything work in networking, because it kind of is a world where a lot of times it seems like a lot of networking things in theory work, and then in practicality requires so much configuration that the chances of it succeeding are close to 0. Next we have a game on Steam here called You Are Pig Sitter, which is clearly a low effort game. This was one that just came out a couple hours ago, so like I didn't curate this out. This would be clearly a game I would have curated out. It's a early access, $4.99. It says English and Japanese. I would have called it a Chinese garbage game, but heck, on rare occasion we do see terrible Japanese garbage games, and I think that's really where this falls down. Right, let's do this. This one creates a food token every time. So what can we do to kill this guy? So now he probably would want to sacrifice this creature and create a food token. And the reason he wants to create a food token is so when I attack here, he can block with this and then sacrifice the food token to bring it back to the field and restore 1 life to him. And we'll see how well that actually works when I start doing things like this. So that's going to do 1 damage to him and draw a card. I could play this now, but I really shouldn't. I can't activate that. So basically we're giving this guy the impression that he's winning, when in actuality I would argue he's probably not. So having 2 witches ovens doesn't really do anything special for him. Let's see, what does this do? Can't be blocked and has haste. That works fine by me. Sacrifice a creature only works on sacrificing his creatures, right? Doesn't work on me sacrificing on him sacrificing my creatures. I'm gonna move over to the other side because I know my tabs on the right hand side are the more curated ones. So we have a TechRaptor article here. Get Rayman Legends free at the Epic Game Store next week. So that's the next free game. Again, if I had any bandwidth, and I'm hoping the reason I'm having bandwidth problems, like I'm also using my cell phone bandwidth, which is not unlimited, so it's been heavily throttled. It actually is unlimited, it's just it's unlimited in the sense that it gets throttled after a certain point, which is, I guess, alright. It's better than getting charged extra, which I would not be willing to pay those charges. Alright. See if next attack with this and this only, and then go. Nobody has an ability. Is that it? Oh yeah, I have to activate this ability. Well, should have done that, and I didn't. So now this one is yellow because it's just not going to attack. Now he probably has something else going on, if I was to suspect. Like, probably has a card that would sacrifice 4 food tokens and create a 4/4 creature. But if he was doing that, then he wouldn't be just doing this over and over again. Let's see. Next we have a game on Steam here called Lost Ember, which looks like a game where you jump around in different animals. It's rated very positively and looks interesting. I don't know how long this is though. It's a exploration, narration, action game according to the tags. Yep, this seems like this could be a short, very linear experience for $26.99. English full audio, German full audio, but people seem to like it, so it's not like I can really complain about it. And this isn't the most quality game out there, but we have Santa Tracker on Steam. If the kid absolutely must have some kind of Santa Christmas game. This one doesn't look incredibly terrible, although it is pretty terrible. And I imagine you could probably get a better cell phone game for free than paying $2.99 with just English full audio. Yeah, there's probably a better option there. Come to think of it. Alright. I need... Can I do this? No. Can I do this? Yes. And then we'll activate that so he can't be blocked. And then we'll just come over here and attack, attack, and attack. And we'll start working them down. See. Next we have a game on Steam here called Heroic Mercenaries, which looks to me to be a rather complicated RPG. There's a lot going on as far as user interface there. I kind of like this art style, but is this an art style that's consistent in any of the actual gameplay? It doesn't seem like it really is. It went $13.49, and it's English full audio and French full audio. Yeah, it seems like it's a little too generic, and when you think about like all the JRPGs that have a much better chance of being good, I mean, the only reason I could suggest a game like this is if you just absolutely hate the way all JRPG games look, whether that's more kid-friendly like Ni no Kuni, or more Western-friendly like Final Fantasy, or Neptunia games, more anime-friendly. Like, there's probably something there you could find that would play better and have a better chance of being entertaining than just a random RPG. Standards for video games are really never going to get worse. They're never going down. So the idea that what may have been an acceptable looking game 10 years ago is being sold now just does not fly as a concept. Let's see. And that pretty much can be said for this game too. Brass Brigade. It's a military, looks like it might be an MMO, but it's a low polygon military game that's not polished enough to be particularly interesting. Even though it is rated positively, it's $7.49, English full audio, single player only. Yep. Just not enough visual polish here. Too much kind of empty areas. When you look past these trees, it's basically an empty space. So he's bringing out more food tokens. His food token strategy here is getting crazy. I guess the thing here that I wasn't realizing is that he was I was losing life, so he is kind of killing me. Do I want to save 3 lives? Probably should have. Okay. Put that on the field. Okay, we don't want that to be blocked. And just kind of desperately would need more. Like, he pretty much can defeat me in this turn. Just bringing these cats in and out. I did not realize that was the strategy he was playing. Took me way too long to figure that out. Yeah, I can get it down to 13. But all he's got to do is figure out some way to kill one character. This is a pretty nice solution for a green-black deck. It really plays itself, doesn't it? Because the Witch's Oven can every turn sacrifice the familiars, and then gives you the food token to bring about the familiar back onto the field. Nice strategy. Nice strategy. I don't know if I could build a deck around that, but I do have most of the cards that I saw that were in play there. And let's spice things up and go back to Out for Blood. Like, not spicing things up too much. I should probably play the white deck, but then that would almost certainly lead to me doing a deck rebuild, and I really don't want to do that. I want to kind of wrap up here and just have one really long episode. Here we have a game on Steam called Escape the Ayuwoki, which looks like it's a horror game, and it certainly is suffering from like dark screenshot syndrome. It's rated mostly positive, $13.49, English full audio. Some of these horror games I think I'm gonna have to start putting on my follow list. The weird thing there is I just kind of don't know how all of that's gonna work, like in practicality. So I do have this card. I probably have 4 of these cards, but I was going for clearly a very different strategy. Next we have a game on Steam here called Death Park, which looks like another horror game with clowns this time. $5.09, English full audio, and a bunch of other languages allegedly the full audio. Let's see. Huge map with 7 locations to explore, original map with plot with multiple endings. Nightmarish atmosphere. Like, do I really want to play some of these games that are mostly just walking simulator horror games? Yeah, I'm gonna put them on the follow list because certainly I'm gonna have to make that consideration. I'm gonna have to determine whether I want to do that or not. I'm gonna wait to draw a card. And did he kill one of my cards or exile one of my cards? He exiled one of my cards. Yeah. I'm gonna start getting lenient, it seems, on horror games, and then I'm gonna have hundreds of horror games on the fall list next time I do a fall list cleanup and decide that none of them are really worth playing. Unfortunately, today was like the first day that Lego City Undercover was aired, this scheduled to air, and so it's airing right in the middle of all this Copa stuff, and can't really do anything about it. I'm not going to lose the footage, and my Lego coverage never really was targeted towards kids anyways, but it's more targeted towards adults who like to play Lego games also, or adults looking for buying advice. And I would argue Lego City Undercover is probably the least kid-friendly Lego game I've ever seen, and I wouldn't recommend it to parents. But yeah, that started airing, so whatever. I heard some rumor that like the Copa fine might be a percentage of how much you earn on a video, which like I don't think it matters to consider any of that. Like the idea that the FCC is gonna hunt down anybody that isn't blatantly obvious, like even if they are just gonna try and make an example of people, they're going to try and make an example of people who blatantly obviously violate target kids content and collect data, which still I think should involve YouTube collecting the data more than anything else. But yeah, I don't think we're ever going to hear anything about it, and it's just going to be the next boogeyman until there is a next boogeyman, which will almost certainly be yet another adpocalypse, some contrived reason why advertisers are negotiating for better prices on YouTube for their ad placement. Alright. Next we have a game on Steam here called Tides of Existence, which looks like it's a fantasy game with a boating element. Let's see, it's early access, it's $21.24, English only and single player only. Again, a game that probably should be on the fall list. Probably not going to be great, but I don't think I can reject things from putting things on the fall list just because I have a suspicion that a game won't be well received or successful. I kind of feel I need to actually have some confirmation that the game isn't good. I want to see those reviews and those credits, the critical reviews saying the game isn't good. Alright. Oh. That's a problem. I think I just lost. Well, there's only one blocker here, so I can block that, I guess. And that puts that on the field, and that puts that on the field. And then, do I have enough to do both of these? I hope I do, otherwise I'm gonna lose. Okay. 2 attackers. So all he has to do is be able to do 2 damage to me. Good. Alright, well, next game we have on Steam is called Unlit, which looks like it's a adventure game that might be a low effort adventure game. It does seem like it's kind of hiding everything and the camera's pretty zoomed out. It says it's a slow-paced point-and-click adventure game without language, with an original soundtrack. It's early access. It's $9.95. It says it has no language and yet it supports all these languages. Is this some small indie effort, or is this just a garbage game? I guess we'll have to wait. I'm not gonna, definitely not gonna get my answer from one user review. I feel like I'm being pretty generous today. Yeah, why not? Let's just play white. Let's add some more variety to our color. Next we have a game called End of Realms, which says it's turn-based combat. Looks like it's a little too text-heavy to be interesting to me. Yeah. Turn-based RPG with travels inspired by classic board games. It says $7.99 with no discount. English interface only. Language. Yeah, I don't see anything here that makes that look quality enough. Alright. Play with that. What? Oh, that's reach. So this has reach. So that means this will be able to block this every time. What else does it do? Exiles the top card of my deck. Interesting. See, next we have a game here on Steam called Vital, which looks like it's kind of a Portal clone style game of some sort. Like, seems like you are doing a lot of the things you would have seen in Portal 2. I'm a huge fan of Portal, so that concept as a physics-based puzzler is something that intrigues me each time. Apparently it's coming soon though, and there's just a demo. It's English and full audio. So really would have to come down to when is it really going to come out. I should have played this card first and then this on the second turn, then I would have been able to play this. Which I didn't have that in my hand, but I should have anticipated the possibility. Meanwhile, this is gonna just exile another card from my deck that he can use to his delight. Yeah, I should have broken this up into 2 recordings, frankly. But I didn't, so whatever. Next we have a game on Steam called Story of a Gladiator, which looks like a game where you play as a gladiator. Looks like it's a hack and slash beat 'em up game. there's been a few of these, and this one looks alright, but it does kind of look like it's just kind of going to be a copy and paste of a lot of characters, and doesn't seem like there's really any RPG elements or anything that would make a game like that make more sense or be a longer lasting experience. So I think I can skip Story of a Gladiator. English full audio. It's $8.79. But I'm certainly not in a good mental mood right now, clearly, because I'm very iffy on whether I want to make any decisions or not. I'm putting a lot of things on the follow list that probably don't deserve at all to be on the follow list. I'm not being very critical, and yeah, that's a problem. That's a problem when my main point of looking at all these new games is to curate the games. Let's see. Tech Raptor has an article here. Castlevania Season 3 hits Netflix December 1st. Season 1 and Season 2 is longer than Season 1, but Season 2 still was probably not as long as I'd like it to be. They are, I suppose, doing a somewhat decent attempt at keeping that coming out in a reasonable amount of time. Whereas there have been quite a few games out there that, or Netflix TV series that have not come out in reasonable amounts of time. And then there's quite a few Netflix series that have just been very silently canceled. And they're just never going to come out directly and say that they were canceled. Yeah, it's ironic because Netflix established the whole binge watching concept more than any other content creator, and they still fail to really maintain enough output to satisfy me as a potential binge watcher. And Netflix really seems to only want to do 3 seasons, so I wouldn't be surprised if this is the wrap up of the Castlevania series, where the story is simple enough. You could go on and on and on, and maybe they'll make a sequel series that has a next generation play a role and reintroduce new characters. But yeah, I would suspect that they would be more happy with 3 trilogies than 1 9-season show. This is just not working well at all. I love how fancy these cards look. They really should just make all the cards look that nice. But they won't, and I don't think they really could, even if they wanted to. It would just be redoing the art on all the old cards. Which, heck, that works. Moving on, there's a game on Steam that's called Friday, and then a bunch of Asian characters. It's a low-effort RPG Maker game, but it does have a unique art style to it. Like, when you see these characters, that is a unique neon color palette that I like. But yeah, this is just like a Chinese RPG Maker game, $2.99. So, of course, it's not going to the follow list. It's a shame. But yeah, that happens a lot. You see things that have good art, and then nothing else is worth mentioning. Let's see. Gamatsu has an article. The romance visual novel Kin Iro Loveriche is coming to the PS4 and PS Vita on March 26th in 2020. So This was first launched on PC December 2017. So I might look at that and see if it's on Steam. And see if like more visual novels getting ported to the Vita and the PlayStation 4 in Japan goes to show that it hasn't been a 100% abandonment of the Japanese market as far as the PS4. Not yet, at least. The only thing I need to do, remember right now, is just get victories. And so that's the hardest thing. And so far I've found no good way to cheese it and cheat either. You just kind of have to play. I could easily spend the rest of the day, and I very well may spend the rest of the day just playing MTG Arena, trying to get 15 victories and looking at sales. TechRaptor has an article here. December 2019 Twitch Prime games have been announced. So you'll get Toe Jam and Earl Back in the Groove, and When Ski Lifts Go Wrong, and Hover, and Sherlock Holmes The Devil's Daughter. That's actually rather surprising. And then a Hue, which is a color puzzle matching game. That's a lot of games, actually. Like if I ever actually looked in my collection of Twitch Prime games I've gotten, I probably have a decent collection. Probably way better than the Epic Store, and definitely way better than Good Old Games, which they don't give away games, so. TechRaptor has an article here. Atari Vault adds 50 games and DLC, which I would have thought that Atari Vault already had all the Atari games that they could possibly have. 14 of these games are Atari arcade games, while 16 of the games that were found on the Atari 5200, 12 were developed by M Network, a development arm of Mattel. They made games for the Atari 2600. The last 8 games were either prototypes or homebrew games. Interesting. So the list here is Avalanche, Atari Baseball, Destroyer, Dominoes, Basketball, Canyon Bomber, Football, Maze Invaders, Monte Carlo, Pool Shark, Skydiver, Soccer, Superbug. This is pretty much the names of all the games, how everything on Atari was named, just simplistic descriptions of what they were with nothing special about them. Yeah, I don't think I'd ever buy this. Let's see. $5 for those games, you're getting severely ripped off at that point. Like, for historic reasons, to say you owned a copy of these Atari games, if you just really wanted to flush your money down the toilet, I could see buying the Atari Vault and the DLC. But realistically, $5 can get you a lot better games than that on Steam. Like, you would be better off just buying 5.99 games at random on Steam. TechRaptor has an article here. Good Old Game re-releases John Woo's Stranglehold on PC, which I don't know what John Woo's Stranglehold is, but it sounds somewhat familiar. Looks like it's a action game. Oh yeah, isn't John Woo the guy with the doves and the slow motions? Action? Yeah, he's the guy with the doves. I don't think there's been a John Woo movie in a long time. Only via Good Old Games. If it came to Steam, that might have some relevance, since it's based on a relatively well-known director. Let's see. Gamatsu has an article here. The Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe delayed to 2020. And it says probably before some time, but so it depends on the specifics of how development goes. I didn't know this game was even in development. I don't know what it really is supposed to even be. Is it just more of the Stanley Parable, or is it a full-on remake of the Stanley Parable? I guess it has to be more, because there was like never really a fireplace. So yeah, probably is just more a sequel to the Stanley Parable. And I don't know if there really is much more to say. Honestly. Like, I really don't know how you could change the Stanley Parable too much, or expand on the story, because it really was more of a almost like a Disney ride type of experience. So like once you've ridden that ride, you've had the experience. You're unlikely to want to go through it, go through more of it for a while at least. But it has been probably close to 10 years since the Stanley Parable came out. Moving on, Gematsu has a report that Kojima Productions veteran Kenichiro Imazumi departs. Source claims the 20-year vet left after a disagreement with the other directors. Okay. I don't think there was ever any update on this. Some of these articles I definitely mentioned at the end of the last stream, and now I'm just really covering them. And I do want to get into one more game before we wrap up, because if I sit here for the 10 minutes it's going to take me to finish the last bits of these news, it's going to take forever. TechRaptor has an article here. In television, Amico Demo re-envisions Moon Patrol this December, which apparently it's going to be an augmented reality device of some sort. I've never heard this. So here's what Moon Patrol normally looks like. And yeah, this is not going to load, so all I can really do is skim the video. Well, one thing that we can say is these two iPod looking things are actually the controllers for the Amico Demo, supposed to be something like the original Intellivision controllers, which were awful. I don't think that that's going to be super successful. Just to put it short and sweet, there's just too many game consoles before the NES were too bad that you're just never going to convince a crucial amount of people to actually want to have nostalgia for those old consoles. They're just so awful. Terrible controls. Nobody knew what they were doing. It was the Wild West, and nobody wants to go back to that. And most of the Atari and Intellivision games are not worth playing, or even remembering existed at all. Next, we have a game on Steam called Quantum Leaper, all one word. Also not having anything to do with the TV series Quantum Leap, which I enjoyed. I really like the moral plays of Quantum Leap, and it's a shame you just really don't get any of that on TV anymore. The best you get are a bunch of cop shows that aren't really moral plays, because they 100% of the time put the cops in the absolute perfect light, and they always, even if the cops are doing something that the show knows is bad, they still just glad hand it away and say it's still excusable. There's really no moral struggles in TV anymore. There's just pretense of moral struggles. And there's just no good writing in general. So this game, Quantum Leaper, though, yeah, it doesn't look polished enough. We've seen a couple other games where you jump and teleport your body. This is $8.99 English and Portuguese, Brazil. I don't think I need to put that on the follow list. Maybe I'm turning the other direction. But you know, it's fine for me to miss a few games too. It's not like there aren't thousands of games on Steam's storefront. If I overlook something that's so amazingly important, somebody would eventually tell me about it. So, can I play this yet? No. Gotta get more, but I could at some point completely cut his life in half. But until then, we'll keep on playing. Let's see, Gamer2 has an article here. Get a job, Weaver is hiring an environmental artist. That's in Venice, California. If you're interested in that. Probably could save myself some time if I just stopped mentioning the job listings. Let's see. The creator of Plague Inc. doesn't tweet too much, so I follow him. And he has an exciting new update for Plague Inc. coming very soon. It looks to me like it might be a mobile cell phone version of the game. But yeah, I don't know what else it could be. Like, just adding more content would be fine, but Plague Inc. also has plenty of content already in it. More content than I think I've even really played. I'm pretty sure there's been an update or two that I've just not chosen to play. Yeah. So play this. Play this. I guess I finally figured out that these cards, you can take your pick, whereas the adventure cards you can do both. And I think adventure cards are new. It probably was something that was equivalent to that before, but they've just animated it and drawn it differently. Next, there's a game on Steam called Hidden World of Art 2, which is from HH Games, so we know it's the slightly cheaper hidden object games. Although this is like actual art, so art pieces like this are going to be so busy, it's going to be really, really hard to find the differences. Like, here's something that's different, but or find the thing. $2.39, not anywhere as bad as the $12 that the Big Fish Games often is asking for. Right. Still don't think I have enough yet. Next turn. I'm still very much not interested in playing hidden object games, though. I think I've covered enough. Next, we have a game on Steam here called Hero Forces, which looks like it is just a low-effort RPG maker game. $9.99 English, full audio, only, yeah, 6 achievements. The thing I guess we could run into, as if Valve is going to start keeping an eye out for extremely low effort games that are bundled, and it was really the bundling that seems that got people caught. I guess that would somewhat push creators to kind of put the effort into making 5 times as long games for $5 because they can't bundle one game five different ways or on 5 different bundles. But then that stops them from abusing the achievement system, and I think they'd already been pretty well stopped from abusing the trading card system. The steps have been very slow and very deliberate and paced out, but it does seem like eventually Valve may be able to tighten the screws from different angles to the point where a low effort game creator will actually have to make a decent game to put it on Steam to even have a chance of anybody buying it, assuming that's what's really going on. In the end, it doesn't really affect anybody who's just buying a game to launder money. Like, there's no way to really get around that one. Not as far as I've found. Right. Pacifism on him. Getting this. Next we have a game on Steam called Blaster Master Zero. This Blaster Master series is apparently better known and better liked than I've realized. Either that or they're just putting out several Blaster Master games in short succession. This is $8.99 discounted and it's English and Japanese. So I'm going to put this on the follow list and see if it gets reviews, and then if enough of the Blaster Master games, I may when I do a follow list cleanup have to just search Blaster Master games in general and make a decision then. Next we have a game here called Dragonstone Legendary Archer. This looks like a Diablo clone with a lot less polish and way too much interface going on. Yeah. And to make a Diablo clone where you only have one archer class, I think you have to do something very different then. I don't think you make a top-down game like that if you're going to have only one class. I think you go first-person or third-person archery then, and you give a story-based game much closer to like Dishonored would be, or the reboot of Tomb Raider was pretty much giving an archer class character gameplay throughout the entire game. Although you also gave her a gun, which honestly, if you are going to make a game with an archer, you need to give them something that's a little bit faster than a bow and arrow. Let's see, Gamatsu has an article here, Japanese PS4 Yumi no Nekai Naka-e lineup music video featuring Final Fantasy VII Remake, Yakuza Like a Dragon, and more. So apparently this is some kind of music video that almost certainly would get Content ID'd if I looked at it, but it's a PlayStation 4 ad advertising all these games here: Final Fantasy VII, FIFA 20, Persona S Royale, Persona 5 Royale, One Piece, Pirates, Warriors, Death Stranding, Call of Duty, Neo, Yakuza Like a Dragon, Project Sakura Wars, and Dragon Ball Z Kakarot. Also includes appearances from Star Wars Fallen Order, Star Ocean, First Departure R, Grand Blue Fantasy Versus, Romance of the Three Kingdoms 14, Fairy Tail, and Dragon Quest Online. Dragon Quest 10 Online. So yeah, seems like there's a bit of a push right now to remind Japanese audiences that they should be buying PlayStation games. Alright. Well, I've got nothing, so play this. And then play this. Yeah, and I wouldn't have had enough mana to play the other one anyways, but whatever. I would need some way to do 8 more damage, and that's just not gonna happen. Next, there's a game on Steam here called Total Seclusion. It's just an asset flip clone of Raft. It's a real shame the original Raft game is not finished, because some of these asset flip clones are now looking way better than that game, even though when you actually got into the experience and the nitty-gritty of it, I imagine you'll find it's particularly boring. And I'm not sure anybody really wants to play Raft, or ever did. This game is free, English and Russian. It's a Russian low-effort clone. I wouldn't be surprised if Raft was a 100% streamer game, and maybe we are finally getting to a point where streamers are not able to make games succeed just by their own popularity alone. Let's see, Gamatsu has an article here. Unannounced Capcom titles to be playable at Jump Fest 2020. So, major tease there. Mega Man Zero and Monster Hunter World, I think, already are going to be there, so you can eliminate that in your guessing if you really cared. TechRaptor has an article here. The Project Cars developer Slightly Mad Studios has been acquired by Codemasters. It might be a good thing, it might be a bad thing. Codemasters is sometimes good with their Dirt series and then sometimes bad. So if they had more people working on the Dirt series, so when a new Dirt game came out it was guaranteed to be good, that would be nice. Target artifact or enchantment. I've got nothing. I've got absolutely nothing. Just pass. They Slightly Mad Studios also worked on several Need for Speed games for EA and Test Drive Ferrari Racing Legends. So yeah, they could be working to help fix the Grid series for Codemasters or the Dirt series. Or they could just be a third series of car games. I mean, it's not completely unheard of to try to just corner the market on one style of game, I suppose. That'd be an interesting way to run your business. We make car games and only car games, but we make several different types of car games. Let's see. Next, we have a game on Steam called Miracle Calamity Homeostasis, which clearly is a low-effort Russian troll game. It's tagged with nudity. Actually, I shouldn't be scrolling down. English is not supported. It's just Russian. Free for everybody. Yep. Still not really sure why these Russian troll games and joke games get made. I think it probably is just to flood the Steam marketplace, just to hurt capitalism in some weird way. I don't know how it really would, but maybe it does. Tech Raptor has an article here. Dragon Ball Fighter Z is adding Broly from Dragon Ball Super. Broly, supposedly, from what I hear, is super popular, and one assumes that Vic Mignogna is not voice acting this character in the game, if anybody is. Yep. That's kind of the problem of having a dispute and firing the voice actor who is voicing a super popular character that you are very close to having to release an update for in your game. But yeah, as far as the Vic Mignogna case, it's not really going well. Like the case effectively was completely ruled against him, and now it's just going to appeal. And if the appeal completely rejects his appeal, then he will have lost completely, with perhaps the slight satisfaction of knowing that he cost a lot of people money in legal fees to defeat him. But I mean, it's really picking. That's really just painting it with a different colored brush. I would like to see either a solid victory if Vic Mignogna is going to win, or no victory at all, and then just realize that, well, that's the way it works, and you really can't sue people for slandering you on Twitter in thousands and thousands of tweets. And maybe that is really how it works in the United States. It's questionable. Next, there's a game on Steam here called Ordinary Family. This looks like it's a low-effort Chinese game telling a story. If I was to guess, English was not supported at 83 cents. Yeah, Chinese. It's just kind of nothing here as far as visual polish. Now, Australia, I can't get the page to load up, but Australia has some classifications for Persona 5 Royale coming to Australia, which is interesting to say the least, because anime is not getting looked on very well as far as the Australian government is concerned. And I think it will be multi-platform, means basically everything. So it's coming to everything. And then they also have a Telltale Batman Shadows Edition, which sounds to me like a combination of the 2 or 3 Telltale Batman games. Again, it is also multi-platform. So the Australian Registration Board may have leaked out that a new bundle of Telltale Batman games is coming out. Which, okay, that sounds interesting. Next, we have a game on Steam here called Dandy Dungeon Legend of Brave Yamada, which I don't know if this is a joke game or what. Let's see, Yamada, I think, was the name of Mario originally, but then this does look like it's an RPG made for mobile games. They want $18.99, and it's English and Japanese. Yeah, this game doesn't look interesting enough. Seems like it's trying to sell itself on being inspired by Nintendo products while really not being a Nintendo product, and yeah, I'm just not buying. This guy should just take the victory and go. this will be our last game. Tech Raptor has an article here. No Man's Sky synthesis update adds ships salvaging and terrain editing and more. Which, yeah, okay. It's nice that No Man's Sky is getting more content to the point where it might actually be a game that's worth playing now, but it's so old now that it's lost any relevancy. Like, I couldn't even really play No Man's Sky and just talk about how awful it was originally. I just not worth anybody's time to do that. Everybody kind of knows what No Man's Sky is, or they don't know what No Man's Sky is, and it doesn't matter. Gamatsu has an article here. Dragon Marked for Death version 2.2.0 update now available. This looks like this is a Smash Brothers clone game. Yeah, it's available now for the Switch, so it's a Switch game. That's why I haven't heard of it. So might as well just, yeah, let's just destroy the pacifism. Just out of the kindness of our hearts. And so that is that. There's no more news. I can look at the Humble Bundle, and I believe there is a Humble Bundle. And I can try and look at the most recent tweets. But yeah, the internet is just not working right now. And I'm hoping and assuming that has a lot to do with what's going on. Just because it's Black Friday and doesn't have anything to do with my internet or anything else that would be a bigger problem that would last longer. Yeah, I'm scrolling down on my Twitter feed, and I don't think I'm gonna see anything. There really shouldn't be any news. I mean, it's the sleepiest of the sleepy Fridays, as there ever should be, because it's just not. No news should be coming out on Black Friday for anything new or any video game. If there was anything to say or talk about, there should just be sales going on. And yeah, the Steam sale is going on, and the good old game sale and the Epic Store sale is going on, but that's pretty much it. Xbox games for December have been announced. I found out that there actually is the Disney Afternoon Pack. I don't think I have that. I think it's on my wish list. And that includes the original version of the DuckTales video game. So maybe that explains why DuckTales Remastered was pulled from sale. But that really would be a dumb reason to pull it from sale instead of bundle it and raise the price or something else. I don't know why you would think you'd convince people to buy the Disney Afternoon Pack, which is a collection of 4 NES games based on Disney cartoons. There's a monthly bundle that gives you some games and some other things, but it's mostly other things. It's mostly programming things. And if the Humble monthly bundle is going to start giving programming stuff, that's going to be a problem. There's a Sonic the Hedgehog 2019 bundle, which I think at this point I probably have most of the Sonic games. So if I'm missing anything, it's going to be like Sonic Mania with DLC or Sonic Forces, some of the really high up games. But they're only asking $10 most, but then I'd still be paying for duplicates. There's a 2D animation bundle, there's a painter bundle, cybersecurity book bundle, the Montagari books are still happening. The other books. Yeah, it's like 5 book bundles going on right now. Yep. And yeah, I hit the end of my Twitter feed and there's no news. So that's going to be it for the stream. Have a happy Black Friday, Cyber Monday, post-Thanksgiving experience. Try not to break your budget. Don't think there's really anything else to do. I'll try to play the rest of the day and get victories. Maybe I'll succeed, maybe I won't. I'm getting a little bit worried that I may not get to level 100, but they haven't announced when any of this would end. It would be really nice if it doesn't end and you can always do Eldraine Mastery and then they just unlock another Mastery after a certain point. You would assume that's what this infinity would imply, is that just going on forward, you always would get one extra uncommon card for paying that $20 or how much ever I paid. But I kind of suspect that's not what's going to happen. Alright, well, that's it for this stream. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend or follow me on any social media sites, there's a bunch of links down below. Remember, on YouTube, if you have to subscribe, you have to click the bell, and then you have to click the pull down to go all notifications. If you want to support me even further, there's a link to Patreon down below. Or you could friend me on Steam and gift me a game off my wishlist. The Steam sale is happening right now, so that'd be super helpful. And if you just don't want to make a decision, you can always gift me a gift card. That's useful too. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.